My aim is to motivate a lot of you sitting here to become full-time open source Web3 developers uh, and build a meaningful career in it. I'm going to share my story. Let's get started of how I did it. Yeah, about me, my name is Arsh. I come from a small city called Ahmedabad. I went to university to a place called Nirma University. I found out about the university when I joined it. So there's no credentialism at play here. I had a primal love for internet and computers since I was pretty young because even though my parents weren't really English speaking and I dropped out of high school, the internet allowed me to discover Bob Dylan, Beatles, a lot of good books, which I think really helped shape my worldview and made me the nerd that I am. So really, I'm just one of us. I currently work as a senior software engineer at Protocol Labs since the last 4 years. The last 4 years of my life have been the most meaningful, professionally amazing, personally amazing, and spiritually happy of my life, and I'll tell you why. Yeah, I usually am a very curious person. I've motorbiked all across India, northeast, south, western India, Nagaland, Assam. I'm a whitewater kayaker. I've kayaked in like multiple countries across the world, all mostly because of privilege. But yeah. Yeah, so the last 4 years in Protocol Labs, I've been able to contribute to libp2p, Go IPFS, Saturn CDN, Boost, libp2p DHT, GraphSync, Go Fill Markets, Lotus. I'm currently a Lotus developer, but it's really been a lot of contributions, and I have learned a lot along the way. As part of this, I've been able to work on distributed systems, peer-to-peer networking, consensus algorithms, some cryptography, core blockchain cryptography work in both Golang and Rust, and I have really learned a lot on the go. This is what my GitHub history in any given year looks like in the last 4 years, all thanks to Protocol Labs. And this is my career. This is how I feed myself. This is how I enjoy my life. This is what gives me meaning, makes me want to wake up every day. And I want to urge you to be able to do the same. There's no reason to go work for big tech companies or closed source companies or mainstream companies if you can really build a meaningful career putting all your code on the internet for anyone to use. Oh yeah, and the people I work with at Protocol Labs in the last 4 years, there are people who have a PhD in zero knowledge proofs from Oxford. There are people who have a PhD in MIT in distributed systems. There are people who build building websites since 1991 and have seen Web 2, Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, all of it. The inventor of Kademlia DHT, the inventor of Hyperledger Fabric. There's a guy who's climbed the El Capitan. There's a guy who literally went on a bicycle from Pakistan to China. These are the people I worked with directly on projects that I work on. It's been an amazing learning journey. And this is what Web3 and open source and open networks make possible. Imagine being in a 60,000, 80,000 people company and getting to work with people like this directly. It's going to be a long while before you can get there. So Web3 allows you to have impact quickly and work with really amazing people. But something doesn't ever add up. So like, how did I go from Ahmedabad, Nirma, parents who had dropped out of high school to working with like these people? Even I ask myself every day, but I have a rough answer for you. Yeah, so I think open source opened the door. In university, I discovered something called Google Summer of Code, where you get paid for 3 months to write open source code. Turns out I wanted to contribute to an information retrieval library because I used it in one of my hobby projects, but I knew nothing about information retrieval or C++, in which the library was written. So I learned C++ on the go. I read a bunch of papers on information retrieval, divergence from randomness schemes. I figured out how to do open source contributions. And I kept hacking for 3 months, trying to convince them that I was good enough. And hey, I got in the end. That's my accepted application right at the bottom. That's a PR that I raised to their repo. The beauty of open source, guys, is it doesn't matter where you're from. Your code is the source of truth. Nobody cares if you're from IIT, MIT, Harvard, or whatever. Your code that they can see is your truth. It is not a gated community. You can show what you're capable of without getting inside their castle. You can get feedback and mentorship from some really amazing people who will spend the time to mentor you if you can prove to them that you're worth their time. So go there, raise some PRs, do some research, spend some late nights, raising good pull requests, and people will come mentor you, give you feedback irrespective of where you're from. So open source opened my idea to my brain to that idea that everything is possible. In 2017, yeah, I was in like a boring trade fight job, not really happy. 50,000 people wear a suit, ask your boss how was his flight. But in 2017, Bitcoin happened. Like the bull run happened. I got really curious about what's going on. I discovered Bitcoin. I started reading a lot about how it works. Man, it changed my world. It changed my world. I read a book called Mastering Bitcoin by Andreas Anastopoulos, cover to cover. I read the Bitcoin white paper. I went through YouTube to understand everything I could about how crypto works. And I discovered my life's purpose. I'm generally a very anti-authoritarian, anti-institutional bias in life. And the fact that you could use like code for human-to-human transactions outside the ambit of institutions and authority just unlocked something in my mind, and I decided to make this my life's mission. Unfortunately, back then there weren't that many good blockchain jobs in India. So I decided to move to Singapore. I got a job in a startup that wanted to use blockchain to decentralize sales prospecting. Yes, it is what it sounds like, not the best of jobs, but hey, I wanted to get my foot in the door and I was going to do anything to make it happen. Off to Singapore. Now turns out the startup was borderline shady. I still had not found my life's calling. I was so badly wanted to work on this stuff. Fortunately, even if you want to do a shady startup, you need some tech. And my startup wanted to use GoLib P2P for a prototype they were building. That is how I discovered GoLib P2P. More importantly, GoLib P2P Kadimlia DHT, which is like this beautiful P2P, a decentralized hash table. And I decided that the only way to get a legit job in this field was through open source, because you can see the work people are doing every day on the internet, right? It's not behind closed doors. So I started contributing to, I read the Kadimlia people like 10 times to understand how it works. I raised my, that's my first pull request, 2019 July 10, to fix a concurrency issue in GoLib P2P Cat DHD. The PR had 95 lines, it got 30 review comments. And that is when I realized that, son, you are now in the big leagues. You got to level up. This is not done. I mean, I was really ashamed at the code I had written there. But hey, yeah, that's the comment that motivated it all. I decided to level up on distributed systems and concurrency, because that is what I was missing. If there's one lesson you can go home today with from this talk, is you can pretty much learn anything on the go. Even the smartest guy on the planet is not born with two horns on their head. Everyone learns on the go. So can you. The internet is a beautiful leveler. Doesn't matter where you're from, Ranchi, Chandigarh, Ahmedabad, Mumbai, like internet is there everywhere. You can learn anything on the go. So I finished, MIT has a beautiful distributed systems course, grad level, where they have put up all their labs, exercises, and courses online. It's called MIT 6.824. I highly recommend all of you to do it if distributed systems rocks your boat. So I did the whole course. I finished all the 5 labs where I had to build like a consensus algorithm called Raft from scratch and get it working. Read a bunch of papers along the way. I learned Golang along the way. I did some Golang courses. And the most beautiful moment of my life maybe is, I don't know how many of you know Robert Tuppen Morris. He's the inventor of the Morris swarm, a pioneer in the field of distributed systems. After I finished this course and put my solutions on GitHub, I got an email from RTM saying, please, can you make your repo private? I'm afraid MIT students will copy your solution. And in my head, I'm like, man, if there's a single MIT guy who copies my solution, I've already made it in life. I can go home and sleep. That's MIT Raft, the solution that I put up on GitHub. And then I went into full beast turbo mode. I'm like, this is it. I now know distributed systems, Golang. Sleep is not really important right now. And I started raising PR after PR. Like I literally mounted a campaign of, you guys are gonna have to get me at some point. So there's DHT bootstrapping, there's DHT auto completion, etc., etc. There's a comment that made my day, is Rahul, one of the leads on FVM, saying thank you for all the hard work. And I kept going and going and going. I got some, that comment, I did not understand a single line of it. Stab Alien, the lead engineer on FVM, is like, yeah, you can do bitwise magic, you just use Zorbor and it'll be done. It took me one day to understand but this is the experience open source makes possible. Here's a guy who's a master of distributed systems, the lead engineer on FVM, teaching me bitwise operators and hashing functions on GitHub. It's beautiful. I mean, imagine, could you do that anywhere else? No, probably not. It's open source and open networks. And I kept going and going, and kudos to them. They were happy to give me feedback, review my PRs, because they could see the effort I was putting on. So I would go home from my day job, spend 4 hours doing open source contributions every day, 7 days a week, 6 months nonstop. And finally, I was able to get an interview from them. Yep, 7 interview rounds, and I got in. I had 6 years of experience already, but I still joined as an L2, which is like the lowest possible position. It's like what they give to college grads. I was more than happy. I'm like, man, I just want to get in. I'll be a janitor if you want me to. I just want to be in the tribe, all right? And I'll level up from there, because remember, you can learn pretty much anything on the go. Yeah, since then, it's been like a beautiful, amazing journey that I talked about in the end. I've got to work with some amazing people in Protocol Labs, contribute to a lot of their stack, do work on Web3, work on open source. I've leveled up a lot as an engineer. There's still a long way to go to. There are still days when I wonder if I'm worth it, or if I'm like, I belong here. but you just keep hacking, and those anxieties go away, when you produce code. Last slide, yeah, some takeaways, quick ones to wrap up. Be curious. Like, I was curious about what Bitcoin is. I'm gonna learn how it works. I was curious about distributed systems, peer-to-peer networking, and that is what gave me the fuel to work hard. Existing knowledge is never a barrier, all right? You can pretty much learn anything on the go in this world of internet, open networks, open courses, MOOCs, Udacity, Udemy, Coursera, what have you. So stop making that excuse. Like, what you know today is not what important, it's what you want to learn. Yeah, you can learn. Yeah, proof of work always. Don't ask cheap questions. When you want to contribute to open source, open networks, do your homework. Read that paper 10 times, read that code 10 times, and then go with questions. People will invest time in you only if you already put in the work. Okay, don't go with easy questions. Do your homework, show proof of work. And don't let your existing reality interfere with your future expectations. I mean, your reality today is like just a small subset of your possible life experience, right? Like, you keep hacking away, have a vision, work hard, like be QA. Yeah, don't have an ego, please. Like, just decimate your ego, take it to a shed, shoot it, and kill it. Otherwise, you're not gonna. If you want to work in the big leagues and you're not already there, if you have a like open mindset, empty cup where you're like, yeah, yeah, ask me to get you coffee, I'll get you coffee. Ask me to write distributed systems, I'll write distributed systems. You'll go a long way. The time for ego probably comes later in life, but now is not the time. Your code is your truth. Doesn't matter where you come from. If you are not from an IIT, MIT, IIM, but like, doesn't matter. Open source doesn't give a fuck. Open networks don't care. Your code, what you write, is where you're from. All right. And the last thing I'll say before I wrap up is, guys, like, I think the cultural context that we all come from, similar socio-economic conditions here in the East, the small colleges and small towns we come from, self-belief is like very hard earned. It doesn't come naturally to us because the whole time system just tells us that we just not might be good enough. There's a long rat race we have to run, to be able to do anything. Whereas in the West, the ethos of individualism really helps them believe that they belong, that what they have to say is important, that their ideas matter. So please, like, work on self-belief. I think we can really improve upon it, right? Be vocal about your ideas, have disagreements, give talks. If you feel like you're right, tell people you're right. If not, level up. But basically, what I'm saying is, believe the ideas that you have right now might be good. Say them out loud. Go to talks, go to workshops, go to conferences, talk to people, argue with them, debate with them. Believe in yourself, because, like, yeah, self-belief will go a long way when you're doing the grind. All right, guys. Like, I hope you had a great time. I'm around. Just come talk to me. I really want more people to contribute to the Protocol Lab stack, to the Web3 stack. I'm willing to spend the time to help mentor you, share my feedback and journey. Even I don't know everything, but we'll figure it out.